Good morning, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mikhail Durkin, and I'm Executive Secretary at Coalition Clean Baltic, an NGO network that unites 27 environmental NGOs from 11 Baltic Sea region countries. And we are one of the co-organizers of this side event, together with many others. And it is arranged within the frame of the third United Nations Ocean Conference. It is a pity that it is actually the only event within this UN Ocean Conference that addresses Ukraine. But then the bigger is the value and the importance of it to bring global attention to green recovery of Ukraine. On behalf of all the partners, including Basin Department of Water Resources of Zahidny Bug and San Rivers, Lviv Municipal Utility Company, Lviv Vodokanal, NGOs, Lviv City Public Organization, Ecotera, Zero Waste Lviv, Chemical Safety Agency, Center for Environmental Initiatives, EcoAction, Runia, as well as State Water Holding Polish Waters and Polish Ecological Club. It is my pleasure to open this event and be your moderator for today. I am especially delighted to have this event today on the Sweden's National Day, and also the next day after the World Environment Day. We all hope that this event will highlight solutions to address war-driven environmental impacts in the Ukrainian part of the Baltic Sea basin. We hope also that it will showcase reduction of nutrients and toxic chemicals and biodiversity loss by linking upstream actions with climate goals. We as well hope that it will promote source-to-sea innovation and cross-border cooperation, emphasizing Baltic Sea's role as carbon sink. It will facilitate, hopefully, also cross-sectorial partnership by presenting the connections in so-called water-energy nexus by the experts involved in green recovery actions, as well as by sharing experiences from Baltic to the Black Sea regions. And lastly, of course, it will support Sustainable Development Goal 14, implementing through resilient ecosystem-based marine recovery and nature restoration. And of course, ultimately, it will help our Ukrainian friends to rebuild their country in an environmentally sound way. So with this introduction, I will now pass the word for welcome to first Ms. Natalia Kruta, Deputy Head of Basin Department of Water Resources of Zahidny Bug and San Rivers from Ukraine. So Natalia, the floor is yours.
Добрий день всім присутнім.
Good morning, everybody.
В першу чергу я би хотіла подякувати від імені
I'd like to thank
басейнового управління,
on behalf
від імені, я думаю,
of
всіх
our
учасників з
Basin
української сторони,
Department
від себе
and
особисто,
all of
європейських
the
наших колег і
participants from the
партнерів,
Ukrainian
за
side,
постійну підтримку, за
just
допомогу,
to thank
за те,
you,
що
our
ділитеся
partners,
своїми
for your
знаннями, своїм
support,
досвідом,
for your knowledge and experience,
допомагаєте нам в реалізації
help
наших
us to
перших кроків в
help us
імплементації
in our
європейських
first
норм і
steps
законодавства.
implementing
Що дійсно горда
EU
тим, що
norms
Україна в
into
такий
our
складний період
legislation.
відсутності фінансів, військового стану
also to know that
продовжує активно
despite
працювати над проблемами
war and
захисту
lack of
навколишнього
financing,
середовища.
during war we still
Саме зараз
try to do our best
розроблені
in
такі стратегічні
our
документи, як план управління
green
річковим
recovery,
басейном, водна
and now we have
стратегія
recovery
України
plan for
і
the
Green
basins
Recovery Plan,
and
особливо
green
для басейну
recovery
Вісли.
plan, especially for the Vistula River basin.
Я хочу побажати всім учасникам
I would like to
плідної
wish all
роботи
the
сьогодні, тому
participants
що
fruitful
програма
work,
складена надзвичайно
and the
із
program that we
цікавих
have
питань,
today
актуальних
consists
і
of
чітких. І
pressing
я
and
надіюся, що наша
interesting
співпраця,
questions,
вона
and I hope that our
призведе
cooperation
до
will
майбутніх
lead
реалізацій саме цих планів, які ми зараз
implementation of these
плануємо і
plans
складаємо в якусь таку
that we are
довгострокову стратегію.
just drafting now and making a good strategy. So thanks to everybody, and let's everyone have a fruitful work today.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And then I will pass to Mr. Przemysław Gruszecki, Director of Department of Water Environment Management of the State Holding Polish Waters from Poland.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to take part in this meeting, in this workshop. So thank you for inviting me. The cooperation between Poland and Ukraine in terms of water protection is a crucial point. If you are familiar with the Polish geography, you will easily notice that the Vistula River catchment is the biggest one in the Baltic Sea catchment area, and one of the biggest tributaries to the river, to Vistula, is the Buch River. It's an international catchment. We share it together with Ukraine, with our Ukrainian partners. So cooperation in this term is very important because of the Baltic Sea ecosystem quality and because of the downstream Vistula River area. We have to remember that the share of the territory that is located in Ukraine, maybe it's not a big one, it's just around, if I remember, 6% of the overall Vistula River catchment. But it is there where the biggest agglomeration of the region is located. I mean, in the catchment of the Buch tributary, it's the city of Lviv. The city is recognized as a possible HELCOM hotspot, municipal hotspot. That is why the cooperation, the coordination of measures is of a great importance, and we mostly welcome first river basin management plans of Ukraine for the Buch River as a part of coordinated river management in the Vistula River Basin District. So wishing you good conversations, good discussions. Once again, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much to both of you for your kind and inspiring words. And we will now continue to the actual main part of our discussion and of our webinar. You all have hopefully the program, or you can find it on our website. And we will move to the first block of introducing our later discussion, and we will begin with outlining the green recovery plan for Ukrainian part of the Baltic Sea. That was developed by our Ukrainian experts with the coordination from the Coalition Clean Baltic and financial support of the EU LIFE program, the Nordic Council of Ministers, and Swedish Institute. And it will specifically address how to utilize source-to-sea approach. So with that, I'm passing the word to Ms. Maria Staniszewska, chair lady of the Polish Ecological Club branch in Gliwice, Poland, and also to Ms. Natalia Cholowska, director of the Lviv City Public Organization, Ikaterra.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Wait a second, Maria. Wait a second. We do not see the presentation yet, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's coming. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's for us, it's a great pleasure to prepare a presentation to this event. And our presentation is introduction and generally focus on eutrophication problem. So at first, maybe what is special with the Baltic Sea? Why it is so sensitive, and why the eutrophication, it brings it a big problem. So at first we have the shallow and closed sea. The second, this brackish waters. And consequences is low biodiversity because it fit to these brackish waters. Additionally, high sensitive and catchment area is 4 times bigger than the sea. and the catchment is with the big population, what is also impact on the sea. We have the 7 big rivers and 100,000 small, and of course different countries, 12 countries with different procedure, policy, protected sea, so it's also difficult to manage everything. Our idea as a CCB, why we focus, what is our idea, what we want, in fact. Enough pristine and white marine and coastal areas acting as a safe havens for animals and plants and being removed for harmful human activities. And of course, it is, and here that's our publication. Of course, it is very idealistic, and from practical point of view, we cooperate with HELCOM, and HELCOM create a Baltic Sea Action Plan in 2007. The next update it in 2021, and this Baltic Sea Action Plan, it is with cooperation contracting parties from all Baltic countries, and also with recommendation NGOs like Coalition Clean Baltic. So it is in this was also our big input to Baltic Sea Action Plan. And this Baltic Sea Action Plan is divided on 4 segments with specific goals. It is biodiversity with goal Baltic Sea ecosystem is healthy and resilient. Eutrophication with goal Baltic Sea unaffected by eutrophication, and hazardous substances and litter with goal Baltic Sea unaffected by hazardous substances and litter. And we in this presentation we focus on eutrophication, the problem which it brings, and the cause where the problem lie in our basins. And here we see evaluation in this small small diagrams that it is showing nutrient input ceilings target, and in this it is last research, and we see how much we need to do to improve the status of Baltic Sea, and how big challenge is before Ukraine. It is more than it is significant increase, more than 50% concerning total nitrogen and total phosphorus. So this, however, it is only 6% of our basin, Vistula basin, but the strong action are absolutely necessary. That's here is the map here is the map, so we will see how big is part of Ukrainian in Vistula Basin. Next, please. And so how its effect, and in Baltic Sea Action Plan, there is limiting pollution with nutrients from Ukraine, about 1,693 kilograms total nitrogen per year, and 4 tons and 47 tons total phosphorus per year. About this amount, it should be shorter, should be deleted in future years. How we can do it? How we can work on it? That's Natalia present what action in Ukraine are necessary.
Thank you a lot, Maria, and I will speak Ukrainian. So I must find Ukrainian channel.
And I will start my part. So as my colleague Maria Stanishevska just shared, the Green Recovery Plan, the Green Plan for the recovery of Ukraine at the Western Bug and San River Basin was developed in partnership with our Ukrainian and Polish organizations, as well as supported by the Swedish organization Coalition Clean Baltics, and the main topics and themes that were developed within this plan dealt with 4 key directions. This is eutrophication, biodiversity, hazardous substances in litter, and the hotspots. And within these 4 directions, we were working on developing certain activities to help and encourage this green recovery. And basically, this green recovery plan for the Western Bug and San River Basin also contributes to the implementation for the HELCOM action plan, and we can say that this plan demonstrates diverse activities and measures that we could use to change the situation for the better. I'd like, and I'd ask you to go to the next slide, because I'd like to start discussing the key directions that we touched upon in our green recovery plan. So, as you can see on the photo, we have treatment facilities of Lviv. On the one hand, that's a hotspot. That's the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous objects in Lviv, because all of these, so to say, parts of these wastewater that haven't been cleaned enough reach the Baltic Sea via our rivers. We have the Western Bug River, we have Poltva River, and they all are apart, and then reaching the Vistula River, and then going further. So there are over 1,000 of settlements with a population of over 1 million of people living there. According to unofficial data, Lviv currently has about 1 million of residents, including 150,000 of IDPs, that is internally displaced persons. This causes a certain problem. Basically, about 97 to 99% of biogenic elements are released into the surface waters then. So what could be the solution for this problem? That's well, first and foremost, wastewater treatment plants require modernization or construction of new facilities, and the proposal that will be suggested in our green recovery plan is to find certain financial instruments to modernize um, these wastewater treatment facilities, first and foremost for Lviv, to the acceptable level. I also need to point out that November the 1st, 2024, the government of Ukraine approved the first river basin management plans, and my colleague Natalia Kruta will be speaking further today, and there are lots of actions and measures that are part of these river basin management plans. The next slide, please. We also will, in our plan, we've highlighted such a topic as implementation of sustainable sanitation programs in communities with no partial sewage system. And today, our colleague Romayan Kizima, who represents a very strong and powerful organization, that's Lviv Vodokanal. On the other hand, the newly created department that has its goal to develop the program for such smaller settlements that we have lots of such settlements around Lviv with many issues concerning them. So he is representing the actions and measures that could be implemented within this part. So how could it be implemented? Well, via connecting small settlements to the wastewater treatment facilities of larger cities, or connecting several small settlements to one sewage system. And of course, this could be some local treatment facilities that could help improve the situation. And we will talk about this today a bit later. And in our next presentation, next slide, please. The next slide is related to such a direction that is focused on preventing pollution and depletion of groundwater in the basin by restoring groundwater monitoring. You probably know that after the full-scale war started, the monitoring of groundwaters has been stopped and fully stopped, and basically we have a very clear goal to encourage and promote the restoration and renewal of such a monitoring. Why do we need? Well, we need it for approximately 45 indicators. Apart from that, it would be great to have within the framework of this direction the purchase of important items for educational purposes. For example, groundwater modeling system, nitrate meters, ion meters, dosimeters. And then we could use them at our educational institutions to maintain in the future the experts who and specialists who are currently the students of our educational institutions. For the nitrates directive, Anna Danilyak from Academia will present the core directions today of what could be done for improvement. And I'd like to say that owing to a partnership with Academia and with the Polish Ecological Club, we had a couple of programs aimed at researching how it happens with our EU colleagues, and in particular in Poland. We saw different households that demonstrated different approaches to implementation of the nitrates directive, and we also expect to have close cooperation between our advisory service and the EU advisory service, and that's very important. But I won't take more time from my colleague Anna Danilak. So let's switch on to the next slide, please. And this one is focused on two other important directions. That's establishing buffer zones along the Western Bug River and promotion of organic production. When it comes to the buffer zones along the Western Bug River, we need to develop recommendations for creation of such zones in the river valleys. So what needs to be planted, in what way to prevent invasive species, and so on. And promoting organic production and consumption by including it into the public procurement system. Here, I'd like to say that it's important to develop the program that could function and help local organic farmers to work and operate in the market within the system of public procurement system. So basically, by providing organic food to the kindergartens, hospitals, and to ensure that kids and our future generations not only have high quality organic food, but our domestic market of organic food can develop so that we could also support our local farmers in this sphere. And here, that's the end of my slides. And I'd like to pass on the floor to our colleagues who are waiting for their presentations as well to share more details, and you can learn more details about the Green Recovery Plan. Just visit the web page of our partners, the Coalition Clean Baltic, and the English text is also freely available, so please feel free to visit the website and find more details. And now I pass on the floor to the moderator. Mikhailo, please.
Thank you very much, Pani Maria, Pani Natalia. That was really interesting to hear your introduction to the future talks and also to the prioritized actions from the Green Recovery Plan. And sorry, here's my cat, as usual, of course. We will now continue and dive into specific cases that are presented in the Green Recovery Plan, and we will start with eutrophication. You've got some introduction now already from Natalia and Maria, but we will first talk about wastewater and sustainable sanitation. So, and how we can reduce through implementation of the Green Recovery Plan, the introduction of nutrients into different water bodies and ultimately into the Baltic Sea. So I'll pass now to Mr. Roman Kizima, representing Lviv Vodokanal, who will talk about how to reduce such nutrient inputs through improved wastewater and sanitation, and what are the needs for doing so.
Hello, dear colleagues. Can you hear me? Dear organizers and colleagues, thank you that I have a chance to present today on such an important issue as eutrophication and anthropogenic influence on water resources on Baltic Sea and Ukrainian rivers. Polish colleagues was quite diplomatic when he mentioned our influence on the Baltic Sea state, but it's not a secret that our region is the biggest pollutant of the Baltic Sea. And that's not the status which we wish to have. Now, I have prepared my presentation, which consists of two parts. And the second part will be about cases, and the next slide will be about a general picture. As my colleagues mentioned, the situation with water resources is not simply bad, but critical, and it's quickly worsening. There are no waters which might be considered as clean or pretty clean, and we have ponds that might be seen as relatively clean. The same goes about underground waters, and I can give Lviv region and Lviv City Council as an example, and I'm a representative of Lviv Vodokanal. And as for our side, we have underground water intakes, and in all the districts where we have water intakes, some of them are not included into the centralized sewerage system. As it was mentioned, the biggest pollutant is, apart from agricultural sector, is the settlements and households which discharge of their wastewater into the surface waters. Next slide, please. So today, almost half of the country, not by population, but by settlements, they do not have wastewater treatment plants, and they don't have sewerage. And most of these plants, they have been built in Soviet times, and they are in bad condition now. And if to talk about the city of Lviv, the level of their deterioration is 70–60%. But even worse situation is with the settlements which do not have sewerage system, because now we don't have a legislation which might control the discharge of wastewater by households into the soil or waters. Next slide, please. One case here is it's not Black Sea Basin. It's not Baltic Sea Basin, but Black Sea Basin. It's one of the biggest basins that we have in Lviv region, which is watered by 3 rivers. And the state of this water body is critical. It's not just used by thermal stations. It has minimal recreation. The state of water is very complex, and we have ordered a comprehensive study to check the phosphorus in this water bodies, and actually children are playing here, and there are also other recreation centers under construction. We don't have this yet, but it's under construction. So these waters which go through settlements without sewerage, they have signed a memo on the improvement of the water state. And we started this process of the study of this unseweraged settlements. Next slide, okay. To generalize my introduction, I can say that there is a global issue in Ukraine as for settlements without sewerage. The state doesn't have its strategic position on the management of these settlements, and any actions which might concern water treatment plants might be very useful, but they are still not enough. If we talk about 10–20 years horizon, it's still impossible to introduce wastewater treatment plants. So we have to implement different mechanisms, how to control this unsanctioned facilities that pollute the soil. We started working with the committees, and we have prepared the analytical letter how to work with sewerage, which would include control over households, control over the water courses, which is not controlled by the state or municipalities, and still they discharge wastewater, and these discharges go into different places, into water bodies, including the lake, which I mentioned earlier. And it's not a single case. And in the next block, I will talk about cases which we are working on, and I will tell you how we can improve the situation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Roman, and thank you for this introduction, and also thank you for keeping the time, because, well, we have quite tight time blocks. And I also wanted to say that if those of you who would be interested to raise specific questions, you can use the Q&A button and type your questions, or you can reserve also your question to the panel that we will have after all these introductory presentations. But I will now pass the floor to Ms. Anna Danilak, representing NGO Eco Action, and she will talk about how to reduce nutrient runoff from agriculture, for example, by introducing nitrate vulnerable zones and implementing EU nitrates directive in Ukraine. So, Anna.
Thank you for giving me floor and for the possibility to talk about this important factor of the water pollution and eutrophication and agricultural sources. It's true that we often compete in Ukraine who is bigger pollutant, enterprises, agriculture, or settlements. And there is a certain problem, because in the EU, the general statistics is that more than 80 or even 90% of all the nutrients that run off to the ecosystem come from the agriculture. In Ukraine, we don't have the statistics. And it's true that if to compare wastewater from urban and rural areas, it's really hard to compare. And the reason is the network of monitoring, because agriculture has this diffusive type of pollution, which is hard to measure without the developed monitoring regime and long observations. And this nitrates directive is one of the things which will help Ukraine to determine the next steps. So to implement the nitrate directive. And nitrate directive is considered to be one of the simple directives for the EU. But it's been around 8 years since Ukraine started to implement the regulations from the directive. And the progress is not that quick. Next slide, please. And it's often that nitrate directive is being scared of, because people think that it's a restrictive mechanism, but we say that it's not about the restriction, but about the effectiveness and the way we use nutrients and manage them on farms and other households. And that's what we are trying to work with now, even though we don't have the full pack of regulations and funding, which is necessary. We don't have this in Ukraine. Next slide, please. So nitrate directive suggests the whole range of measures, namely good agricultural practices, which deal with fertilizers, agrochemicals, using fertilizers, and the area where the farm is, water conditions, how close they are to the water bodies, the quality and content of the soil, and the crops which are being grown. And if we talk about livestock, it's also about storing manure, storing their manure, and how it should be done in order not to have a nutrient runoff, which might lead to pollution and financial losses for the farmers, because pollution is ecological problem, but also it means that resources were not rightfully used in agriculture. Next slide, please. And when we talk about the measures of green recovery for the Western Bug and San Rivers basins, that is connected with how it is done on our national level. And I will talk about the main stages that we have. And the first step is to specify the nitrate vulnerable zones. And here you can see different approaches done by different countries. Some of them specified separate zones, and some of them use another approach where the whole territory of the country takes measures on reducing the agricultural pollution. And Ukraine doesn't use any of the approaches. Last year, when we expected the approval of the basin management plans, and we expected that Ukraine will go through the way for the nitrate reduction. But at the same time, they approved plans for the river basin, including Western Bug and San Rivers. The measures that they considered was the expanding of the network for the monitoring sites in order to specify separate water intakes in order to avoid the pollution from these diffusive sources. Next slide.
And in parallel to this, at least it happens so in Ukraine, that currently we have the second step. It sounds a second step in my presentation, but basically it's in parallel, and maybe it's even slightly advanced. So that's developing the good agricultural practices code. And now we even have the second iteration of this list of good and best practices within the agriculture that need to help farmers reduce and prevent the deterioration and loss of nutrients and nutrient runoff in their activities. So the next slide, please. Right, so what are the next steps? These are basically developing the action plan most probably when it's the case of Ukraine, that's most probably will be the action plan covering the whole territory of Ukraine. And currently, we have a preparation stage for the draft law on reduction of the water pollution caused by the agricultural causes, and we expect that some of the gaps in the area of authority division within the key state bodies will be removed, and there will be assigned responsible bodies for implementation of each of the parts of these directives. And after that, the development of the action plan will happen. Now, when it comes to specific measures that we identified as priorities with our colleagues for the Western Buchan River Basin, please the next slide. We can group these measures that are supposed to help us the management system, and in particular the measures aimed at helping us identify the nitrate vulnerable zones, and here the scaling for the monitoring system is important in developing the action plans that will be required and obligatory for farmers working within such vulnerable areas. For this, we'll need to implement and conduct additional research in the subbasins, and without the mechanisms of financial incentives, economic incentives, and support, it won't do. So, of course, it's not only the question of funding, which is very important, but that's also advisory part and consulting the producers. And here we're trying to work on this alongside with agricultural advisories and consultants to develop their competencies and expertise on better nutrients management and approximation to the EU standards and requirements. Also, it will be difficult to train required experts, so we suggested to include on the list of required things respective courses at educational institutions, well, to make it a part of a corresponding curriculum. The stages and measures suggested by the nitrates directive, so that these are taught at educational institutions, and at the local level, at the farm level, we also created a list of suggestions. We have some priorities. The next slide, please. These are basically related to, well, what we currently really lack. We really lack practical cases. We're trying to collect, gather, and find them. So, so-called demonstration farms where the good agricultural practices are implemented and could be demonstrated so that they are clearly visible how it looks like at a certain example, at a case level. Because, for example, when you read something and when you can visit a site, a specific farm, communicate with the farmer, that's different. And these measures are not that scary any longer, and the value is clearly visible, not only the ecological feasibility, but economic feasibility of such measures as well. And of course, communication, awareness, cooperation with the local communities is important, because what's specific for rural communities and areas, and not only the rural, because in the region of the Western Bug Basin, lots of people mostly consume water from the groundwaters that are the most vulnerable to nutrients pollution. That's why the rural and urban population is interested in solving this problem to ensure and prevent further pollution of their main water source for the region. Of course, using such a network of demonstration farms and advisors, we could then spread and scale such practices within the agriculture, popularize and encourage and raise awareness of positive experience among the Ukrainian farmers and also our neighbors. This is what we've been doing for the last years, basically experience exchange between Ukrainian and Polish experts, farmers, on how current good practices of manure management in livestock or fertilizing use, how it looks like. The next slide, please. And that will be my last one. I think what we've identified as the first priority that's important for diagnostics of any further steps, this is diagnostics and planning of the fertilizers use and planning manure storage in livestock farming, and that's the first and the highest priority step. After the soil analysis, fertilizers analysis, water analysis and test on the household and farm area, the community area, it will be the first important step to identify which measures will be the priority ones for this specific community, for this specific farm. I think that later on during the panel discussion we could discuss it further, but for now that's it. Thank you. I will pass on the floor to the next speaker. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you. Well, I do understand that this is really challenging within this short time to fit what you want to say. And I know that your presentation perhaps contains a little bit more. And just to repeat that all the presentations will be shared afterwards on our website, as long as the speaker will allow, or speakers will allow that. And also, please just consider and use the Q&A button. I saw that there was already one question that was responded. And we'll now move to case hazardous substances. And there we have also two presentations. So I will then pass the floor to Ms. Irina Mironova, Director of NGO Zero Waste Lviv, who will tell about the problem with obsolete pharmaceuticals and how it can be addressed. So I saw that Irina is here. And are you going to share your slides directly, Irina?
Yes, I'll share my slides directly.
Well, sorry for my cat.
So we have a lot of challenges. Can you see my presentation? Yeah. We see a lot of challenges with in terms of hazardous waste, especially I'll be talking about pharmaceuticals and microplastic today. And Ukraine is undergoing waste management reform, and unfortunately we don't have any regulation regarding pharmaceutical waste generated by households, and microplastic is also not covered. While hospitals or other entities or producers of pharmaceutical products have to have a proper disposal procedures. Unfortunately, we also have outdated and missing or sometimes missing collection and treatment infrastructure, which lead to the situation when pharmaceutical waste components and plastic gets into the streams. And also there is a lack of public awareness regarding the proper treatment of pharmaceutical waste. So a lot of challenges in front of us, and of course, with the war, we received a lot of humanitarian aid, including a lot of pharmaceutical products close to the end of the date of proper date of use, and sometimes obsolete. So right now we get more and more inquiries from charity foundation what to do with the obsolete pharmaceutical waste. One example from Lviv, that at the beginning of war, the one foundation received chemical treatment for cancer in the amount that this particular treatment can be used for 3 years, but unfortunately with only 1 month of time left. Then of course a lot of this treatment is now sitting on the warehouse of the charity foundation, and it's a better case because quite often, like especially smaller grassroots organizations simply throw it away into the mixed waste. Our organization started working with this topic before the full-scale invasion. Back in 2021, we did the pilot in Lviv, and in less than 2 weeks, we planned to test the collection system for obsolete pharmaceuticals from residents. And we plan, okay, we maybe collect from residents about 20 kilos, but we got almost 160 kilos of obsolete pharmaceuticals, and most of them people brought to pharmacies. In European Union, there is extended producer responsibility covering the pharmaceuticals, but unfortunately in Ukraine, pharmaceuticals are not even in the priority list for developing the extended producer responsibility scheme under the current waste management reform. So a lot of work is in front of us, but at least we tested how we can do it on the more municipality level, with the some funding or subsidies from either local government, like it was in our pilot, but now most probably we need the support from other international funding. So this topic we included into the recovery action plan, so you can see the estimates there. If we did the composition analysis of this 160 kilos that we got, and we see that there are a lot of anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, hormones, antifungal, antidepressants, so quite a lot of components that can harm the environment, can influence both human health and environmental health. We received the data from, and you can ask me later more questions to also Natalia Kruta, because their unit did the monitoring. And for example, triclosan is a very broad spectrum antibiotic and an antifungal substance that can be found from soap, but also in the specific treatments, antifungal treatments. Now in the Vistula River catchment within Ukraine, there are lots of cases where this substance was found, and in many cases it was exceeding the water quality standards. But it's only, in general, 3 substances are under control, but there are much more substances, and also a microplastic, which is still not covered. I'll speak also briefly, just mentioning that about the sources of microplastic, and my colleague already mentioned the problem of untreated wastewater that comes from the single households, or also in the case of Lviv, where it's not untreated but not treated enough wastewater that comes from the waste treatment plant. Together with especially from the washing machines, we get a lot of microplastic from the textile. But we see a lot of cases when in the rural communities where there is very bad waste collection system and a lot of dump sites, especially sanitary products, packaging and single-use items get into environment, and then in some time they collapsed into microplastics. So in general, if we want to improve the quality of and reduce the hazardous waste coming into the Baltic Sea, we have to pay attention not only to the better wastewater treatment practices, but also improvement of municipal waste system, and work with the residents and raise awareness on also waste prevention, and whenever possible to get rid of single-use items or single-use sanitary products, promoting more sustainable waste. And that's what our organization is working on. So considering time, thank you very much. You can read more about the plans in the Green Recovery Action Plan on that topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Irina. And indeed, both the source reduction as well as end-of-pipe solutions would be necessary to reduce this type of inputs of different hazardous chemicals and microplastic. And with that, actually, perhaps the revised Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive that now requires as well the quaternary treatment to address micropollutants and emerging substances would be very much of relevance, and perhaps that's something to be taken into account also for further actions in the Green Recovery Plan. And with that, I will now pass to Denise Pawlowski, and apologies to the remaining speakers that we are a bit out of schedule, but I hope we will catch up. So I will pass to Denise, who will talk, and he's the director of Chemical Safety Agency, and he will talk about the problem with old pesticides or highly hazardous pesticides that can be found in Ukraine, and how this can be recovered.
Hi, colleagues. Thank you very much for the floor. If it's possible, could you please share my screen? Okay, thank you. Good day, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you very much for the possibility to make a presentation about the hazardous substances, something like highly hazardous pesticides. And of course, talking about the cross-contaminations, border cross-contaminations, which focus it in our activity here. Next slide, please. About highly hazardous pesticides and about the problem which we have in Ukraine during the last 20-30 years, and about our research which we was carried out in 2019. Yes, you could ask me about why this data probably some old, but as you can see on this slide, pesticides and agrochemicals, according to the national current legislation, are registered in Ukraine for a period of up to 10 years. And of course, when we conducted the appropriate research, we draw attention on the registry period for these types of highly hazardous pesticides, and on the situation when will be end of the registration period for this. And of course, a lot of roughly 80% of these chemicals was registered until 2030, and that's why we are talking about this now here. So according to Ukrainian current national legislation, we haven't definition about something like in EU countries or in US what is a highly hazardous pesticides, and that's why our legislation haven't covered this issue, and that's why we have difficulties now with the proper usage and of course proper activities which should be focused on the ban of use of highly hazardous pesticides on the territory of Ukraine. And next slide, please. According to the research, according to the data which was received based on the 31st December 2019, the state register of pesticides and agrochemicals which permitted for use in Ukraine contain roughly 4,000 formulations of pesticides and agrochemicals. About a third of pesticides permitted for use in Ukraine, it's a highly hazardous pesticides. You could see on the slide, it's 1,125 formulations, which contain inside from 1 to 3 active ingredients of highly hazardous pesticides. And according to the data to the end of the December 2019, 1,125 formulations of HHPs contain 83 active ingredients. And according to the expert estimates, according to the different measure of data, Ukraine currently consumes about 100,000 tons of pesticides annually. And this in monetary terms, this amounts about 2 billion US dollars. For comparison, our 3.5 million tons of pesticides used in the world annually. And this market is estimated roughly $45 billion. So next slide, please. On this slide, you could see the main biocide products from the PAN list were presented highly hazardous pesticides, and of course, according to the Ukrainian market, it's about biocides products which contain highly hazardous pesticides. It's roughly from 8 to 850, from 800 to 850 items. And domestic production, which presents in Ukraine, is roughly 250, 270 items. Next slide, please. And of course, very sensitive issue about the highly hazardous pesticides. Nevertheless, that highly hazardous pesticides haven't banned by Ukrainian legislation, but also we have the other problems with counterfeit pesticides products, which presented on the global market roughly 15%, but in Ukraine it's up to 30%. And of course, when we are talking about counterfeit pesticides products, and in the context of highly hazardous pesticides, we could say that the problems which we have with highly hazardous pesticides increased in 2-3 times more, because the ingredients also has very strange production story. And that's why, according to this data which presented on the slide, the market of existing plant protection products in Ukraine can be divided into several segments. It's 50% of legal sale, 20% illegal import, 25% unauthorized repacking, and 5 fake products. And Irina Mironova said about the problems with packaging in medical area, but the same problems with plastic and packaging in agrochemicals, because, for example, sometimes original packaging use it secondly for repacking, for authorized repacking, and that's why we also should draw attention on this. And of course, the biggest problem with situation of illegal pesticides, including highly hazardous pesticides, it's a small packaging and the repackaging of pesticides, because these products widely available in the villages, in some small towns, for ordinary citizens who don't want to teach and educate the label and the label on the packaging. And that's why, unfortunately, national legislation imperfect, corruption, lack of experience in control of pesticides circulation, and of course, a lot of works in this direction. And also, but the main reason how we could solve this problem, it's of course economical reason, because, for example, as you know, Ukraine move a lot of agro products abroad, and of course for this the quality of this products, of this production, should be on the high level, and that's why it's today it's a main force which move in the direction to ban use of this agrochemicals. And of course it's a good achievements how to stop use by farmers in the production of products. But of course, as I highlighted before, this problem existing in Ukraine roughly 30 years, and of course the land contaminated by highly hazardous pesticides, the water contaminated by these hazardous substances, and of course we couldn't be sure that all of these elements cannot be moved abroad and will not be cross-contaminated as soil in Baltic region. Next slide, please. And here on this slide present recommendations, and of course here focused the main on the public awareness raising, on the safe alternatives, ensuring control our application of pesticides by agricultural procedures, ensuring that farmers and agricultural producers aware on the negative health and environmental impacts of pesticides, because from our experience we know about a lot of cases when the farmers have got a lot of problems with improper usage of agrochemicals, which should be used by big companies, I mean big farmers companies, and also establishing a system of safe pesticides handling in private household and cooperation with territorial gromadas, and of course cooperation with small farms and agricultural enterprises to promote biological methods of pest and diseases control, because as you know, huge farmers try to buy all of this is production, I mean agrochemicals, in huge companies, but the small farms would like to decrease money for the production, decrease cost for the production, and that's why they're trying to save money, and that's why they are using they are trying to use products which has low price, but of course it could be a low quality of these products. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Denis. Please note that there are 2 questions to you in the Q&A. So if you can respond to those, that would be fantastic. Well, not here orally, but perhaps in written, because we are really well out of time, and we need to save some time also for the panel. But we will now move to the case biodiversity and nature conservation, and I will start with the presentation about river restoration and water bodies restoration that will be delivered by Ms. Natalia Kruta, you already met her, and also Ms. Eva Lesch, founder of CCB River University and leader of CCB Working Area Eutrophication. So Eva and Natalia, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, I will begin the presentation. I would like to know that the issue of river revitalization and water bodies revitalization is a pressing issue for Ukraine. Since in last century, Ukrainian rivers suffered not only due to natural circumstances, but also due to the ground's melioration, channel meliorations. There were a lot of artificial obstacles which caused the degradation of rivers and water bodies. If to talk about positive aspects, Ukraine have acknowledged this problem and started making first steps in strategic planning for river waters. Next slide, please. And first strategic documents for planning, which we have, is definitely river basin management plan. And if to talk about the Vistula River basin, there are a few projects, pilot projects for the territory of Ukraine. And the next document is the water strategy of Ukraine, which acknowledges the problem of the rivers and water bodies and presupposes their restoration. And grave recovery plan, which we mentioned today for the Vistula River basin, also has measures for the river revitalization. And I would like to say that all of the 3 documents have their advantages. They meet European requirements. They are aligned with Water Framework Directive, and all of them are interconnected and balanced. And all the measures that are in management plans, they are also meant in green recovery plan for Ukraine. And all of them have one aim is to have a good state of waters. Next slide, please.
When we're talking about the river issues in Ukraine, regardless of whether this is Vistula Basin or Siversky Donets Basin, they are more or less the same. And the most important issue with the rivers, this is utility sector pollution. And as my colleagues, the previous speakers already mentioned, the most important thing is bad conditions and ineffective results from the treatment facilities and lack of such facilities in the private household factors. And this problem has been identified as the key one in the Green Recovery Plan and the River Basin Management Plan, because without the modernization of the water treatment facilities, so building the new facilities or installing such facilities for households, all the other measures and actions would be meaningless, because if we drop the wastewater directly into the water stream, then nothing will improve. The next problem in terms of priority is overregulation and a change of the riverbed that causes silting up of the riverbed and also slowing down of the flow eutrophication and littering, when the litter covers of the river, all the riverbeds and river banks. Of course, let's not forget about climate change and floods and droughts. Also destruction or degradation of wetlands. And another important problem related to the river states is ecological awareness and mindset of the population, which is pretty low. And residents can either litter or drop their waste on the banks of the rivers. Roman Kizem also mentioned, and the way that they are using the water in their everyday life, so they're not saving water at all. So when it comes to household littering and wasting water in the water use is improving, because we can see um, how we have more such actions as events dedicated to cleaning of the water banks. The other problems are still very important. The other problem is just lack of experts, lack of knowledge to have ecologically focused recovery of the river. And very frequently the projects for eco improvement are being developed without the hydrologist, hydrobiologist, and frequently results in negative consequences. Next slide, please. As I already mentioned, revitalization of rivers is one of the key directions of the Vistula River Basin Management. You can see 5 actions that are part of the action plan, of the management plan. The 4 are very specific ones: the Western Bug River, Krasnosilka River, Zavadivka River, and Black River, basically creating the database and inventarization of all of the artificial barriers that block the river flow. So when it comes to prioritization, we think we need to start with one object. For example, let's start with Zavadivka River, which is a trans-border river that runs through both Poland and Ukraine. So here we're going to have this trans-border connection. And this river has very typical problems that are common for Vistula Basin rivers. So if we implement this as a pilot project, it would be a great case, an example for other rivers within the Vistula Basin, and not only the Vistula Basin, but all of the rivers across Ukraine. The next slide, please. And here there is a list of the first steps that were done, because basically recovery and revitalization of water objects in Ukraine has been in active discussions from 2021 when 2 rivers were selected in the Vistula Basin. That's Krasnosilka and Bolotnya. And then in 2022, a project was implemented, restoration in the ecosystem of small river. That was the Krasnosilka River, supported by the WWF Ukraine. One of the positive consequences is that these actions were part of the strategy of territorial communities located in the basin of this Krasnosilka River. In 2023, an application to the International Fund Open Rivers program was submitted, dedicated to removing obstacles on this river stream. It didn't pass, but next year we're going to reapply, as Roman Kisima mentioned, 2024, funded by the Lviv City Council. The research was conducted in Shcheretsky. And also we had a roadmap created on how to proceed with this. And just recently we learned that we won the Future Lakes grant. That's a part of the Horizon Europe to research Svitas Lake. So for the next 2 years, we're going to work on this research to revitalize this lake. And the highest priority action for now is inventorization and database creation for all of the artificial barriers on the water streams of the Vistula River Basin alongside with the WWF Ukraine as part of Open Rivers, research of Zavadivka River Basin and development of action plan for its revitalization as a pilot project, and also identification of the funding sources, identifying grant programs where I could apply for this goal. That's briefly it. I pass on the floor to my colleague, Ms. Eva, please.
Thank you, Natalia. Please, next slide. Thank you. So just to introduce myself, I'm Polish expert on transboundary freshwater security, and I'm also an observer of intergovernmental river commissions. And I also had the pleasure to support Green Recovery Plan in terms of water content. So my role here is to highlight the need of transboundary cooperation on the river basins, and also the exchange of knowledge and good practices, which Ukrainian colleagues already mentioned on water in terms of water management sector, but also in terms of nature protection, such in case of rivers, wetlands, because these ecosystems are vital in the time of climate change. I'm sure we know that, but also they have importance in the time of war when the water infrastructure experience damage. So I would like to remind about the schemes we already have between our countries, like bilateral intergovernmental cooperation in the form of Polish-Ukraine Border Waters Commission. We have already its representatives here in amongst the panelists. Also the bilateral and multilateral cooperation on water, on integrated water management in case of water authorities, which are also present here. And we also have the path of knowledge transfers between scientific units like academias, universities, and other bodies which were formed to deliver this kind of professional knowledge, like, for example, in terms of river restoration. And I can proudly mention here the River University, which I launched with support of CCB, and which one whole edition was dedicated to Ukraine and recovery of freshwater ecosystems, the restoration of the rivers and water-related ecosystems. So we strive to provide the relevant background, relevant expertise, relevant cases to be at hand, to be handy for use on the neighborhood ground. Some examples to share and learn from the Polish side can be also National Surface Waters Restoration Program, the first one which was prepared in Europe. It's a very good program prepared by our experts, and I hope it's also used already, like between the authorities to practice the restoration. Also, we have the wetland protection strategy in Poland, which can be useful in terms of restoration of peatlands, wetlands, and water-dependent ecosystems. Another point of cooperation can be the municipal climate change adaptation plans, because we know that we are in the time of climate change, so all water-related sites, including the ones which are within the cities, are like the top priority to take care of them. Next slide, please. And of course, to talk about the solutions and to talk about the practical actions, we need to also mention the scale of damage in Ukraine due to Russian full-scale aggression. And we can mention like such damages as blowing up the Kachovka Dam, which is quite a big issue in Ukraine, not mention to attack on the national nuclear power plant. We also can hear about over 8,000 other environmental crimes, and of course we are sure that this number is not the final one, because we know the situation is ongoing. In monetary terms, we speak about 85 billion damage, and that includes the pollution of water, the destruction of water infrastructure, water supply infrastructure as well. So I think we are all aware that we don't talk only about the usual like exchange of knowledge, but we have a quite special situation that this cooperation should be intense and on the full scale to support the country which is in the high need. Next slide, please. So yes, from the diagnosis of damage, the needs come. Water supply and state of the rivers are obviously, as we could hear from Natalia, and not only, are among the most relevant issues for Ukraine. That's why we bond on this topic with Poland and with CCB support, and also with support from many other countries. As Natalia says already, water doesn't know clear boundaries of regions and districts, so the water management should take place at the level of the river basins, and that's really crucial. So not to be limited by administrative boundaries. Water Framework Directive is obviously a high important matter here. government of Ukraine already approved the river basin management plans for 9 river basins of Ukraine. I think we are all very glad to hear, because that's some relevant steps to take in terms of the planned EU accession. But obviously, we also have signs that additional funds are still needed for these measures. So this is also the urgent field to cooperate. I mentioned the climate change. All our countries work on that. Ukraine is also taking efforts in this field. For example, preparing the regulatory framework for adaptation to climate change. We can mention here the proposed law on the basic principles of the state climate policy, as well the strategies for environmental security, state climate policy, and we all need to be sure that we know that every euro invested in adaptation saves at least 4 euros in terms of overcoming the consequences. I'm saying that just to remind that maybe for us here, this issue is obvious to cooperate and to act on, but in some countries there still are different opinions about the climate change. So this also is something to work on in terms of information level. Also, last but not least, the EU Nature Restoration Regulation is something to be aware of. It's related to EU countries, but the importance for Ukraine is to be like one step ahead even in terms of the preparation. So if the accession will be ongoing and if Ukraine will be a member of EU already, so to not be delayed at the start. So I would highlight this as quite important to follow the preparation for this legislation. And of course, that shows us the diagnosis of the damage and the needs, the importance of river restoration, water security, and water resilience of the country. And hopefully, it will show us also the recovery. I would say blue recovery maybe this time. Can I have next slide? Yes, and that's our final slide. So I think we would like to thank you with Natalia, and I hope that our highlights from the river restoration sector will be helpful and will work in practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Thank you very much, Eva, for this presentation. And I will now still pass to Roman Kizima for a practical case of water restoration project. But Roman, please keep to 5 minutes maximum. And meanwhile, I will also ask the participants if you're okay to extend a little bit for 15 minutes so that we still have a discussion. If you would need to leave, you can of course leave and we will provide the recording afterwards. Thank you. I'll pass to Roman.
At the beginning, I have critically mentioned the situation in Ukraine, but I want to say that we have a change in water resources management due to UBRIS, which is a state organization, and I would like to thank Natalia Kruta, who is a professional and enthusiast who does a lot for our region. As for the cases in our Lviv community, we created a specific unit, department, which has to manage water resources, and we called it from initiation to education. And we, together with Aarhus division, we created vision. We use Danish experience for our realia. And according to this vision, we have created 7 working groups. Water supply, groundwater, sewerage, decentralized sewerage system, rainwater, urban planning and land use, water awareness, and surface waters. These groups are working in order to prepare this water vision for the Lviv community, Lviv municipality. And we started working with the things which we haven't worked with before. We started to conduct inventory of water courses, because in Lviv there are many many rivers, small rivers. Some of them are in bad state. Most of them are in bad state. And accordingly, our inventarization presupposes a main determination of main challenges and ways how to deal with them. As I mentioned before, the biggest problem is discharged wastewater. Also, legislation which is not ready, illegal waterworks construction, and definitely the litter at water bodies. Here you can see the negative examples which we have with our water bodies. There are 2 rivers. It's unauthorized facilities, hydros facilities on rivers. You can see litter on the rivers, and the river belt was broken. I'm sorry for this unpleasant photos. And the only relatively clean streams, they are in our ecosystems, for example, protected ecosystems like in parks. And as for wetlands, we have Bilohorsia peatland, and we got a grant, which is one of the 7 countries that got it. And these wetlands are very degraded due to melioration, and we started the research on their restoration. As for the treatment plants, we have started work with households and settlements without sewerage. Now we are transporting the wastewater from these places. We raise awareness among the population. As for the awareness and education, we started working with schools, and they have the education program on raising water awareness in their curriculum in one of the schools. It's called water stewardship, which includes implementation of water topics into all communities in Lviv. And on the other hand, is for children to get responsibility for these small water bodies and take care of them. Unfortunately, I had to be very quick, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Roman. That was really important, I think, also to share these examples and demonstrate especially the public awareness and capacity building projects that you are running, especially the educational ones for schools. And not only, of course, and indicating the problems with the small rivers and streams that need to be rehabilitated and addressed specifically. But yeah, as you understand, it was very difficult for us to keep within the time. We actually knew, I think, from the beginning that we may run out of time, because I think to me and to CCB in general, it was most important to give you the possibility to speak and give you, as Ukrainians, to demonstrate what you're working with, what you think are the priorities, and what you think should be specifically highlighted and addressed. Also taking into account that actually within the attendees of this webinar, we also have several representatives of different donors, well, particularly private foundations, but not only, that might be interested, of course, in having this information in front of them. But what is also important is that we still have a possibility to discuss a little bit. And I would suggest that we do it in 3 small blocks of the discussion. And I will explain why. Actually, one of the ideas of having this webinar is not just to exchange the information about what's been done, how the Green Recovery Plan was composed, but also to potentially draft some kind of voluntary commitment that we can submit to the United Nations Ocean Conference process for the implementation of so-called SDG 14, the Sustainable Development Goal 14. Well, you see, here is the logo of SDG 14. And to me, there could be a specific commitment on implementing Green Recovery Plan for Ukraine in relation to protection of the oceans as well. And for that, I would suggest that we discuss 3 bigger themes, but let's try to make it rather quick, so that I would ask each of the speakers, to say just a couple of words related to those specific themes. So one would be how we create so-called shopping list of priority projects. And I would invite you to name at least 1, well, maximum 2 priority projects from your field that you feel need to be implemented first. You can also outline what are the obstacles in implementing those and what kind of support is needed. And let's start with this one. So I open up now the floor to all of you, to all the speakers, if you would wish to share your thoughts about it.
Zgłaszam. No to
Anyone to start? Yes, Roman, go ahead.
Roman był pierwszy. Dobra.
Yes, if I could, I'd like to start. So, apart from the utility company Lviv Docomunal, I'm also executive director of the first metropolis territory for over 1 million of residents. So we have this separate organization because the impact for the Black Sea and Baltic Sea pollution from our region is great, and I believe that we could be a pilot for lots of projects, including for Ukraine as post-war recovery. And we believe that first and foremost, when we are talking about specific project implementation, specific actions, we need to develop strategic documents that are the action plans. Currently, we are looking to develop the new climate change adaptation plan for our Lviv agglomeration, and the strategy that could include centralized and decentralized sewage system for the whole of Lviv region, for the Lviv community and neighboring communities. As I already mentioned, that's over 1 million of residents. So we are really interested in researching the international and global experience and the support of developing such documents that could be used for specific cases for revitalization of specific water objects, and so on. Thanks.
Thank you. And then I think Natalia was the second. Natalia Kruta, I guess.
Yes, thank you. If We're talking about two directions, and the first one, as I already mentioned, are the water treatment facilities, because the most problematic part is Lviv Canal, but that's such a large and ambitious project. I believe that we probably need to start with something smaller. Hence the suggestion to reconstruct the treatment facilities and construct local ones. So basically having a comprehensive approach to Zolochiv, and for Zolochiv's territorial community, because it's at the outflow of the Western Bug, we could reconstruct any treatment facility. They are all in bad condition, but maybe we'll start from the very start and from the beginning of the river. And the second is revitalization, and here we need to conduct research and for the Zavadivka River, because that's trans-border basin covering two states, and that's a single basin divided between the two states. So we can conduct a research, identify key priority measures, and then further on implement them. That could be a pilot project, and further on we could share and implement the same experience for working with other basins and rivers.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And then I think it is either Natalia Chilovska or Maria Stanishevska.
We are together. And okay, I start, Natalia will continue. At first, I would like agree with Roman vision about water management and wastewater management. I think that it is really very complex problem, and it cannot be solved, you know, with the partly. It should be planned for all. I have an opportunity yesterday to visit some villages nearby Lviv, and I I saw some elements what Roman showed, but that important is that municipality of Lviv should prepare program how solve wastewater treatment and how solve deliver of water to particularly villages, because it's also a problem and it is individual. And and I think when we look at the role of NGOs in this work, maybe it should be consultation or on consultation of this plan, and our small work as an NGOs. It's for example, so we have with Natalia proposal that to promotion sustainable sanitation in rural areas in scattered building, not concentrate, because it should be that needed a big project which costs a lot, but to show good example of sustainable sanitation can be in rural areas when the buildings are not so concentrated. That's about sanitation and water management problem, and also the another part of my visit here was working on nitrate directive. And here, I think that here the works is advanced, thanks for engagement Minister of Agriculture in Ukraine, thanks of engagement, of course, first Ecodia. And here we think that maybe the next step of common work should be practical implementation pilot projects which show really good practice. and practice and farmers practice how limited nutrient leaching to the water. So that's our idea. And Natalia, what you would like add?
Mhm.
We also have some ideas on how to select the priority projects. And in my opinion, when it comes to the nitrate directives, it's important to have such projects where we could have cooperation between the advisory representatives from the EU and Ukraine, so to have joint consultations and also programs to support farmers in implementing the best practices of wastewater uh, uh, on their livestock farms. Of course, it's important to have some financial tools for our farmers to build the future manure storage facilities, specialized facilities that would correspond to all of the rules and standards of the EU. Probably Anna, as my colleague, would add more details here. I'd like to go back to such a topic as supporting organic production in the region and supporting producers of organic food in the domestic market via the public procurement system is very important for us to see and to learn how in Europe they are solving the problem of involving organic food producers. How do they overcome the cost criteria and limits? And how and the price related issues, how they're solving that, how are they involving the community, because they'd like to see at schools, military hospitals, kindergarten, some organic foods, and it's very important for us to have our colleagues from EU to provide some information, maybe some research and medical research that show how organic food impacts health, human health, and maybe there is some research already that demonstrate the negative impact of pesticides on health. Thank you. From that's it from us, and I pass on the floor to other participants.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Maria, and pass it to Anna.
Thank you. I'd like to provide the answers that will be only useful in the context of the nitrate directive, in particular, but of course not only in terms of certain barriers and opportunities, what else is required. And during my presentation, I already mentioned that to control and monitor this uh, diversified and diffuse pollution that happens within the agricultural farming, but not only, we need to develop a network for monitoring and to add new monitoring points at such a level of water management would need to do. That's a very long-term task and assignment. Of course, it will also have the long-term impact, but that's a required thing. There are some financial needs here and human resources need here as well. Because we'll need experts to implement this, to analyze the received indicators on the results of monitoring, and also implementing the best practices when we're moving on to the business or entrepreneurship level. Once again, from the point of view of agriculture, I'd like to say that for farmers, they have a need in very solid practical projects. That's what they need. And not only that, but also some consultations, because a part of the problem appear already at the planning stage. lots of things are being approximated rather than measured. And when we are talking about byproduct management or waste management in agriculture, here we have lack of planning, lack of estimations and calculations. As a result, we have nutrients runoff and pollution. So we need to start with planning first, and the second part, these really solid practical projects, and the part about the opportunities, also the funding that we receive from international financial institutions and donor organizations, always have this requirement of being eco-friendly for all of the projects and investments. And frequently, small farmers don't even know how to approach this. That's why, once again, consulting, and they need help with the list of what could help their households, their business, to decrease their negative impact and footprint, and how to adapt, how to transform into the positive environmental impact. That's what is required. And there are lots of currently such things, and I think this trend will only grow. So funding as grants and credits and loans, and each of these already has this green requirement and component.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Before I pass to Eva, I would like to raise your attention also that there is a question in Q&A, and that is related to wastewater treatment, small-scale wastewater treatment and sanitation. So if any one of you would wish to respond to that, please do that in the written form in Q&A. And now, Eva.
Thank you. Just wanted to bring to the table the project we already submitted. So not just focusing on the wishes, but also on the actions we already did. Let's hope that application will be successful. But one of the needs which was expressed already by Ukrainian colleagues was the lack of knowledge in terms of restoration, river restoration, a lack of practice for the experts they have within the country. So we submitted the project which will work, hopefully, on Ukrainian rivers, on their sites, actual and practical sites, delivering the knowledge from the neighborhood country, which means, for example, Poland, but not only, because the other countries has also the experience within this topic. So we will try to deliver this this lacking knowledge, not only on the theoretical way, but definitely on the practical way, working on particular Ukrainian sites which were rivers which were already selected. And I hope that it will bring the relevant value, because something different when we talk about the matter, but it's definitely more useful when we have the opportunity to develop this knowledge on our cases. So that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva, and thank you for this first round of thoughts. Well, just once again, if you have anything to respond to the question that is in Q&A box, please respond.
У нас іде дубляція перекладу. У нас іде дубляція перекладу, 2 голоси.
Ага. Okay, well, that's for the translators to check.
Зараз один.
Okay, good. Then we continue with the second round of questions, and that is about sharing examples from Baltic Sea region to Black Sea region. I really liked what Roman Kazima said about using Lviv as a pilot area, because actually it is also a shared watershed, so it is in between the Baltic and Black, even the city itself. And I also would like to remind you that, well, years ago, around 15 perhaps years ago, there was a project about exchange of experiences from the Baltic Sea region to Black Sea region. It was a cooperation between the two conventions, two regional seas conventions, between Helcom and Bucharest Convention. But maybe we can establish also something on the specific ground of green recovery. So I wonder if you would like to, of course, you already pointed some of the actions that are quite universal, like sharing and promotion of the agri-advisory services and providing more solid projects for farmers for improvement of the infrastructure, like manure handling infrastructure, for example. But maybe you would like to raise something additional, because I'm quite sure that we are missing some of the areas, and I have highlighted some ideas in this list of questions. For example, if we can from the Baltic Sea region support with certain expertise and competences, for example, in oil spill response or marine mammals protection and things like that. So please think out of the box if you would wish to suggest anything in addition. Yes, Roman, go ahead.
I'd like to add to the things which were already mentioned. We are really interested in the experience exchange, and talking about the Baltic and Scandinavian countries, it's valuable for us. And now we are working on two tracks. One is about nature conservation measures and also sanitation and treatment plans. And the other one is the one that we had with urbanized territories. It's rainwater management. Here, the experience of Denmark and Sweden was very valuable. And rainwater management for Ukraine is a new thing, and nobody specializes in it professionally. We are now implementing it, working with the developers, but we are interested in different specific cases of rainwater management. And as for the sanitation, it's also a topical issue.
Thank you very much, Roman. We indeed do have quite a lot of experiences with stormwater management in Baltic Sea region. There was even a dedicated project platform arranged a number of years ago. So I can, well, link you to them, but I also think that it would be relevant perhaps to share the outcomes of this webinar and the work on green recovery with the Baltic Sea region strategy, or EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. It's being already presented last year at the annual forum in Visby, but I can also connect you to the coordinators of policy areas related to water protection within the strategy. And also, please note that there are several thoughts and ideas in the Q&A again. And please know that there is even an invite for the cooperation from Vice Hermans, who is based, I hope Vice still in Riga in Latvia, but he's from the Netherlands and indeed has a lot of experiences on both sanitation matters, wastewater and water management, peatland management, as well as rural development, and currently working also a lot on the climate adaptation and mitigation. So please have a look at the Q&A. Any other ideas regarding such cooperation between the two regions, between the Baltic and Black? You can always come back with your thoughts. So you do not necessarily, if you don't have anything to share right now, you can always come back to us with such ideas, and maybe we can think about even developing a joint project idea for the continuation of the Baltic to Black project that could specifically address pilots and not just linking the conventions and the governance bodies, but also establishing connections for implementing specific pilots on different fields. And then if there is nothing that you would wish to add, yeah, there is actually another mentioning in the Q&A, I guess. Okay, yeah, that was just a confirmation from Vitsa. So the last but not least question, and we hoped that funders would be available for this webinar and participate in this event. Unfortunately, it was too short notice for them to attend. But at least both those who are working with green recovery at EU level, at DG Environment and DG NEAR of the European Commission, as well as NEFCO, they are aware of our work and they are aware of this event. So we will share the outcomes with them. But I just would like to ask another last question before we round our event for today. And that is about if you can share anything, any thoughts about what is missing in currently available and offered financial instruments for green recovery, so that we could share those recommendations with the funders. And you can think of, again, out of the box, because those funders do not necessarily need to be the big ones, the IFIs. Those could be also foundations. And I was actually very happy to see colleagues from Germany and Finland also participating in the event and attending it, so that they could follow. Yes, Anna, I pass to you.
I will start as the representative of the NGO, and what I like and what I would like to see more is what we called solid projects, and actually to have more possibilities to create intellectual projects, recommendations, researches, and when you do something with your own hands, something which you can touch, is just a different experience and different level. And these things are perceived easier, and they are not theoretical but practical. So not theoretical but practical events, that's what we would like to have more. NGOs in cooperation with communities, small businesses, to implement and create and implement something this way, something practical. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. This was really good recommendation also that we can pass to the funders in our hopefully draft voluntary commitment. Anyone else would wish to express anything? Yes, Roman?
Так, конкретний кейс,
Yes, I want to talk about specific
про які
case
хочеться сказати.
as
Ми,
for the solid
як я говорив раніше,
ideas.
No, something has happened with the connection. Unfortunately. Yes. Yes. Now we are back.
I'm sorry. The case which I wanted to mention. In our Lviv municipality, as I mentioned before, we started to work with water treatment plants, and there are thousands of them. And now we are working on the program, which has a technical task of billing and cooperation of technical and logistic stocks. And now we are looking for the opportunities and resources to start this runoff transferring, to start new sites for discharge of the wastewater. So the case of the system of control over the households and water system, wastewater runoff for the treatment facilities.
Okay, thank you for this very concrete one. Do you have anything else? Still have raised hand? Okay. Well, if nothing else, and I fully understand, I mean, you are quite exhausted also after these 2 hours, and indeed we need to break probably. I would like to round up and wrap up round up, hopefully not being connected to the famous pesticide, but actually closing down our today's event. I would like to thank you all, both the speakers as well as the participants from different countries who attended this event. As I said, we will prepare a short outcome that we will share with the United Nations Ocean Conference Secretariat. And we will also try to draft some kind of a voluntary commitment that we will submit before the end of the conference, before 13th of June. But I hope I will be able to share this draft voluntary commitment for your consideration, hopefully approval, in the beginning of next week, so that you will receive and have a chance to look into that and perhaps comment. Of course, I wanted also to thank the interpreters, because that was very important that we had this opportunity of transferring this knowledge and information and share it in both languages, so that both English-speaking as well as Ukrainian-speaking participants could have a chance to listen and share and further promote. As I said, we will post the recording in both languages onto our website and also on YouTube, if you don't mind, of course. And lastly, I would like to ask your permission and approval to publish also the presentations. And Irina, specifically to you, I would wish to get your presentation, if you can share that.
It's already on your email box.
Oh, super. Thank you very much. Yes, and with that, I am about to close this event, and thank you once again, all of you, and Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.